good afternoon, and welcome to the Deconversations and Beyond Clean Christmas mashup. So we are calling it
Hey!
buzzing, but Christmas tree with AI instruments on. So welcome everybody, and as I spotted before we came on that and kicked off that the last time we did this was in 2021. So
Wow.
A lot has happened, and a lot has happened in the world, I think.
Haven't changed at all. Haven't changed.
No. Matthew has still got a festive spaceship behind his head. Well, at least I think that's what it is.
It's the back end of it.
As long as he's flying towards the light, he'll be fine.
Oh,
That's
yes.
right. Follow the light.
Follow the light.
Perfect. And Pavel looking super with his homemade decorations there. Clem as on the case.
Absolutely. Couldn't be prouder.
Very nice. So yeah, just great to have a catch up with Hank. It's been a long time. So, and I'm sure we have plenty to discuss in the world of decon and instrumentation and everything else that goes along with that. So we're gonna have a talk through a few subjects, and then I'm sure some other stuff will come up along the way that will be very exciting. So to kick us off, we've got a few questions actually, and Powell, I think you have a very interesting one to get us going, which was actually what you felt would be perhaps the most important research that has changed the way you think. Should we say from 2021 or from this year? What we're saying
in general, if you found something, because there have been a number of pivotal pieces of research in our corner of the medical industry that sort of changed the way we do things. And for me, there's one particular one that I'm happy to introduce you to, because this is something that I feel so passionate about, and a lot of people who read the paper really missed this particularly critical detail, and I just want to share it with you.
Please go ahead.
Yeah,
and then I'm sure our other colleagues will pick up on anything also that they feel is worth raising.
So back in 2018, when we were all bright, young, and very promising, a group in Germany headed by Marcus Verl committed a paper in Central Sterilization titled "The Test Method for Comparative Evaluation of Instrument Detergents for Manual Reprocessing of Surgical Instruments on the Basis of Fibrin." So the premise of the entire paper was to create a really uniform, difficult to clean test, call it a process change device. And they wanted to isolate fibrin from the whole blood, because fibrin is known to be difficult to clean. So they have come up with an entire protocol to actually get us strips of fibrin on stainless steel strips. And while they were doing it, all the steps of the preparation were shown. And what I found to be particularly interesting was the fact that in order to isolate fibrin, they have used just water. They submerged the samples in a beaker of water, stirred the water, and gradually all the hemoglobin, that is the red pigment in blood, was removed from the samples, leaving sort of whitish, opaque layer of fibrin. And they succeeded in the quest of isolating the fibrin and creating this PCD based on just fibrin protein known to be hydrophobic, sticking to surfaces very strong. But I think what is critical and what was missed from the explanation of the entire experiment is the fact that the hemoglobin, the red color that we just automatically always associate with dirty instruments, that was removed by submerging in the samples in the lukewarm water and just stirring the water. There were no jets of water, no strong mechanical force, just gentle stirring, and all of the pigment gradually disappeared. So that for me was an eye-opener, because I read that and said, why isn't everyone talking about this, that we cannot just use visual test, just looking at the sample. We always look for the red pigment because that's naturally where everyone sees contamination as. And here we see that all you have to do is to put blood in lukewarm water and that red color is going to disappear. That's why testing for protein afterwards is absolutely critical. So for me, since 2018, there hasn't been anything comparative to that in terms of the transformation of how I see and how I explain how important looking for proteins is, because still we are in 2025, that's 7 years after, and I'm being asked on a daily basis, oh, why don't you swab for ATP, or why don't you use a visual under magnifying glass? So I just say, well, you're just looking for the red color, then you're not going to find anything if you are testing after the washer disinfector. So that's me. That's my piece of research. That's Vero from 2018. Just have a look at it, because, yeah, it's an eye-opener.
I feel like you might have stolen Matthew's, because that sounds like something Matthew would also be interested in.
Well, yeah.
That's good. So Matt, were you also familiar with that study that Pavel's referencing back in 2018?
He probably mentioned it to me at the time, but
Okay.
you know what it's like. You get bombarded with so much information. Not that Pavel's information is not always fascinating and useful, but it just, at the end of the day, it proves the point that Pavel and I have always had. It's not what you can see you need to be worried about. It's what you can't see. And unfortunately, to rely on visualization and swabbing is a bit of a dangerous sort of precedence. And and as I will mention later on about technology, technology moves on, but unfortunately, sterile services seem to be a little bit stuck in their ways. They want something that's very simple to use and cheap. Usually cheap comes before simple to use, but doesn't always deliver the results. And it's education at the end of the day. I mean, my goal in 2026 is to try and, with the help of yourselves and Pavel, is to try and re-educate people, if only just to get them to think about things. I mean, if stuff's been left behind that we can't see, I mean, that's the danger. So
this is a dumb question, maybe, Pavel, but the fibrin that you describe, I'm not familiar with that study. That's the first I've heard that. So that's really interesting. If the red hemoglobin is removed, can you still see the fibrin, or is it like invisible?
Yeah, but the thing is, actually, do you know what? If you give me a second, I'm going to share the picture. And that is going to be probably the best way to explain what we are talking about here.
Okay. I'll give you a second. I'll sing Jingle Bell, Jingle Bell,
Jingle all the way.
Oh, that one too.
Oh,
That's
what fun it is to ride.
You've been practicing, Matt. You impressed?
I'm practicing every day with Hugo. Don't worry about that. He's keeping me up to date with everything that goes on.
You have your backup, Hank.
Well, I may need it. We'll see.
Interesting that a lot of the innovations that I've seen recently at some of the trade shows are heavily focused around safe pre-cleaning, well, safe and effective pre-cleaning. And I'm not going to really say too much about those, but what I suppose raises the question is that although these seem to be very innovative in, is that actually facilitating the removal entirely of obviously all the bioburden from what I was saying, suggesting maybe not.
Maybe it makes it look cleaner, but yeah, the question remains: is it actually getting that that we can't see? That's a great point.
And I suppose I think things we often see with things like rongers that have got bioburden retained in them, we still see that a lot in house when we're working on instruments. I mean, that is at least that's a good visual cue that it might be unclean. Okay,
guys,
Pavel, here we go.
Can you see my screen? Sorry, I just jumped
into
this. So on the right hand side, you have this rectangular spot where they put raw blood on, and then you can see after just submerging it in water, all the red pigment is gone and the fibrin is exposed. You can see it because that was photographed to show it under different at a different angle. You can see that first they were making just a headshot of the strip, and then they had to put it at an angle to actually show that you need to have the reflection of the stainless steel to actually expose it properly. But imagine you don't have a strip like that, but you have small bits hidden, for example, on the box joint or in the crevices. On some instruments have textured faces for better grip. If you hide that fibrin in between those grooves there, I would strongly argue that just a visual inspection under the light is not going to show you that.
Well, and I mean, older stainless steel instruments tend to be quite dull, don't they, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, you've also got the challenge of different surface finishes, of course, and that's something that we're seeing more and more of, a variety of different surface finishes, different coatings. So this makes these findings even more relevant. So no, a very interesting bit of research. So that was presented in the central sterilization, right?
Yeah, you have the title at the bottom, 2018 Central Sterilization, Volume 26, 6 of 2018. So it's definitely a great piece to read because they've done huge amount of work to actually get to that point. It's just I was hoping that we can spread the word about just noticing this particular fact out of the whole research, because the research proved that you can make a fibrin-based coupon of stainless steel, but the fact that that red color just disappears by putting that in a lukewarm water is something that should be really highlighted from that.
Right. If the qualitative review of that test is the color removed, and if it is, then
the
it passes,
color is removed.
and that's
absolutely.
a problem. Right. Yes. Yeah. Anytime I see this, and this is maybe a question for all you guys, and I've got a similar comment on the research I saw either this year or last year that I'll bring up here in a moment. But the question becomes, how dirty can our instruments be? All right, because I don't think many people ask this, right? What level of contamination can we overcome with current processes, antibiotics, and whatnot? Because we all know, if we're honest with ourselves in our departments and our industry, we know because of what you just showed, Pavel, and many, many, many other reasons, there are dirty, contaminated instruments being used in surgery every single day. Just like if we're honest with ourselves, this is happening.
When you
And
started this, I started wondering straight away, do I actually want to know the answer to this?
yeah, well, because that's the tension on the wholly practical side of this for these sterile services clinicians on the front lines who are having to make not only like make the decisions because we're talking about qualitatively, hey, do we stop the line here or is it not bad enough? But they also have to make the financial case going back to the resources. I think Matthew, like you mentioned, they want it cheap. If it's a tool that's going to increase quality or efficiency or whatever, obviously they have to make the case. But almost inevitably, the hospital leadership and administrators, and I'll throw them under the bus a little bit. They're not bad people, but they're making calculations um, in ways that are outside of just the qualitative calculations. Like they're looking at the financial piece, they're looking at the number piece, but they're also comparing infection rates as one of the key performance indicators to is my sterile service department doing a good job or not. And if the infection rates are still fairly low or within the industry benchmarks that say that it's acceptable, which I think like all of us would agree, 0 infection rates, we should be doing no harm. But that's not the case today, obviously. So long story short here, knowing that instruments are often dirty, is it worth us as an industry identifying that tipping point of how much, how dirty can it be until the data starts showing up? Because we know it's dirty, and we know there's infections going on. We know there's quality breakdowns, anything else. But has anyone ever done research or asked this question on, yeah, but when does it actually start showing up in the data? Is it 10% gross soil? Is it 20%? Is it specific to protein? But, obviously there's concerns there. But yeah, what are y'all's? I know that's not a very specific question, but what are your thoughts on dealing with the reality that instruments are dirty and that somehow clinicians have to make the case? Yeah, I know everyone's instruments are dirty, but I want ours not to be as dirty. And how do we push the needle there?
Just to pick up that, interestingly, I saw a conversation on social media on LinkedIn around, and there was a surgeon giving some input around like devices that were maybe still visually dirty, and actually that being okay because it was sterile dirt. And even if it does happen to fall into the patient, it's not going to cause too much harm because of that. And I think there's actually some research on that. So I'll try and find it while we're talking. But no, I thought that was a really interesting point, and it wouldn't have even crossed my mind. I think it was a comment around an implant. Actually, saw it a few days ago, and saying about implants that should always be, because of some implants are pre-sterile, some are sterilized after use. So it's an interesting perspective, and not even something you would have potentially entertained. But I don't know, is that widely known?
Oh yeah, I think that's a common. I won't say that is the universal opinion of every surgeon, but is a very common opinion of surgeons out there to say, you know, it's because there's something there, that there's some residue, there's some debris, or residuals, not necessarily the end of the world, and I'll say that's very unfortunate.
Yeah, I think it was actually about a piece of, I'm thinking about it, it's a piece of bone. That was the point that was mentioned. Yeah, but I don't know.
I have
Similar.
personal experience. I was testing some instruments on behalf of a specific hospital that had they were using a sterile services outside of the hospital, a private company doing the sterile services. And they sent me a retractor, and it was like one of those cord retractors. and in one of the teeth, it had a piece of tissue in it. And I said to them, why did you send that to me for testing? Because you could see it's dirty. There's a lump of tissue in the thing.
Right.
They said, well, did you test it? And I said, yeah, there was no protein present. It didn't detect for protein, but the fact you got a large lump of tissue in there, you don't need a protein tester to know that they shouldn't be there. And they said, we're glad you said that, because when we asked, and it's similar to Dan's point, when they said, oh, there's a bit of tissue there, they said, oh, don't worry about it. There's no protein in that tissue. And wow. So if that's our benchmark now, that's very worrying.
It is worrying indeed. I'm sort of listening to this conversation. I'm sort of trying to formulate in my head a plausible answer that I won't be regretting later on. But if someone says that a large bit of tissue is sterile, then I would sort of question at what point, because we use the same universal measure, especially for autoclaving. What do we deem sterile, right? And if that piece is large enough and contains more bioburden, more individual bacteria than our sterilization process is set to start from, then we'll never achieve the level of sterility. And that means that it maybe they should have just said it was a cooked piece of tissue, but not sterile. Or maybe it was sterile on the outside, but inside of it, who knows? So I'll just leave it there, because it's that's a tough one.
I'll pop the link in the chat for those who would like a look after the call, so you might be able to pick it up. But no, it's I think as soon as you give a bit of leeway, then we've got no chance, have we? So that's the which leads me. So just going to move the conversation on a bit, and if you've got something you really want to input, then please raise it later on. But just a couple of the points. One thing that I wanted to mention was about sustainability, and in the UK, this has been a key point that's come up from government level. Circular economy, working to reduce single use, and therefore to make potentially single use in things like tray wrap, instrumentation. And there's been a lot of work done on this with lots of multiple companies and groups and lots of stakeholders. But the biggest thing that's come out of it for me is ultimately what we've concluded is that we need a much bigger capacity in sterile services, and that maybe sort of 15, 20 years ago, when we started to cut all the sterile services back and move to single-use products, well, it turns out that maybe that wasn't the right thing to do. So now we have a scenario where we want to be processing more instruments, reusable. We want to be identifying where we're using single-use stuff, and it's not justifiable, because why would you make new stuff if you can clean it properly? But now we've got the big issue that actually we haven't got the necessary capacity to clean it. So that also raises the question: are certain devices better as single-use? Because quite frankly, they take too long to take apart and clean. Not necessarily that they're not cleanable. I mean, things like suction tubes, that's well known. But yeah, I just thought I was interested to get your thoughts on that, Hank, and if that's something in the States that has come up on the radar at all, because I'm just amazed that we're here talking about like the benefits of reusable versus single use and the capacity.
Right. Yeah, what I will say, I have not heard it positioned in the way that you just did, Dan, as sterile services being the capacity throttle for a hospital's ability to be sustainable through surgical services. And I think it's a really, really important point that you just laid out, is if your sterile department is already at max capacity with non-sustainable options in place with a lot of reusables. I mean, with a lot of single-use items, with a lot of non-reprocessing packaging methods. If it's already at max capacity with that, with your staffing, with your budget, it's a pipe dream to think that you're going to be able to become more sustainable at scale. I think it's a very, very important call out to administrators, again, as we're making a case for the value of these departments in general. I have not heard people connect these two as these high profile sustainability goals that are like on the front page of the hospital's banner and everything else. We want to be sustainable by 2030 or 2050. I've not heard anyone say, in order to do that, step one, ensure that your sterile service department is supported in all these ways, not only the capacity, but the mindset and the messaging, because many times it is these departments that are talking to the physicians or to the clinics that are being supported, and they're the ones advocating for sustainable instrumentation and processes directly, and say, hey, like I know, like you might have used this disposable instrument in your training, but we've got this big 2030 vision for sustainability. Part of that is getting physicians like you to agree to do this at a reusable instrument level, and this is why. And I don't think, again, at scale, that our department leaders are even being given that kind of training and perspective and talk track. Like in a completely different scenario, like we say the same thing about finances, right? We're hiring these managers to run these departments with multi-million-dollar budgets, but we've never had just basic accounting, finance training, including me when I became a manager for the first time. Like I kind of had to learn that, and that's crazy that you're handed that large of a budget and said, hey, to go do your thing. Same thing with sustainability. You can't just tell sterile services, hey, but be the primary driver for sustainability in our health system, but not equip them and give them buy-in, like mental buy-in for the importance of this vision. It's not just another thing on their list if we actually want it to happen. So yeah, I think that's really important, but no, we're nowhere near where we need to be in the US on that part.
Well, it's the circular economy. I think, for instance, containerization over tray wrap is something that's there's case studies going on around that, but of course that means potentially double capacity in washers. Probably almost certainly double capacity in washers, extra chemistries, extra water. So there's
extra
so
space
much
to store it.
So much to this that unravels, but it also leads me nicely onto a point around emerging technologies, because alongside all of this, I think if we want to achieve this and get anywhere near moving towards this sort of dream of increased capacity, automation is becoming more and more a factor. And I don't know, Matthew, you had some thoughts around emerging technologies in and use in the NHS generally and private hospitals. And what were your views on this?
It's just that I've been involved with different companies that are desperate to try and bring technology into the realms of sterile services and theatres, and the uptake just seems very slow. I mean, one of them is a pre-washer that literally is in the reception side of the washroom, where the trays would come in and then us put into this machine, and then very high power jets wash off all the gross contamination. And that saves an individual standing at the sink scrubbing, because this machine does it for them. The reluctance seems to be is A, the cost of the technology, but B, the reluctance to lose someone standing at the sink doing that horrible job. So that's an example of the technology's there, but it's just not being adopted. There's a tracking system for finding instruments. So if theatres could walk into the instrument store with a tablet and literally have each instrument would have like a tracking device on it. So if it was Mr. Smith's special forceps, they could just put that on the on the tablet, and they tell them exactly where it is. So it's those type of things, there's almost like people are so worried about being replaced that they're not taking this technology on board that will just make life a lot easier, and in some cases cleaner.
And we're talking
Very
about
much so.
efficiencies, aren't we?
Yeah.
I've seen the examples of robotics and robots wrapping trays, and as I understand, this is being used fairly widespread in certain European countries. I don't know if that's something that's come to the States yet as well. But if we're gonna progress, we have to change the way we're doing. But we also, most importantly, have to be investing in our sterile service departments to give them the chance of doing that.
Yeah, give them the tools. That's the problem. I mean, this equipment doesn't come cheap, but a bit like our government. I don't want to go political, but everything's short term. They always think short term. They don't look at the long term gains. So,
yeah, I want to bring up, something that Matthew brought up that's in line with the theme that we were talking about earlier, the disconnect around the messaging of what it is we're trying to accomplish. Like I brought that up with the sustainability piece. He just brought that up now with the automation piece. Is the temptation is to believe that this is going to replace me and therefore I don't want the additional technology. Well, that may or may not be true depending on what kind of technology we're talking about. But if it's not true, we need administrators and leaders and industry thought leaders out there making the cultural case and arguing clearly the reason why these things are important and how they impact. That's not the technical efficiency number case. It's on the mission part in your heart. How is this going to help you care for patients better? How is this going to help your team not burn out and quit and then have turnover and everything cycling through to now you have all these people that are not trained and they're stressed out and they're also unable to care for their patients. But see, that's a story that has to be told. And in our industry, I think we focus many times so much on the technical piece or the science piece that we skip over the story piece and we're like, hey, why are people not buying into this idea? Or why are they not implementing this project? Well, it's because no one told a story that got through their brain into their heart to where we got buy-in, and everyone's is out there kind of checking boxes or not checking boxes because they don't believe this. They don't really think this is important. And not everybody can be convinced by that, but I don't think we have a fighting chance unless we've got people that can grab the narrative part of this and impact it at scale to the leadership, to the frontline technicians, to the innovators out there in the industry that are trying to create these new solutions. Like, how is this story told? Why is it beautiful? Why should you believe in it? And you'll make sacrifices in order to get it. So yeah, anybody listening that's a good storyteller, come and help us tell this industry story in a way that's going to get people to buy in, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. This sort of links very nicely, if you don't mind, to the next question that I proposed for our discussions here is, how do we make sterile services departments more suited for adoption of innovation? So I don't want to sort of continue with the idea that we are the guys in the know and we push certain ideas and innovations onto them and they have to adopt it. I would rather have a system where it is driven by the sterile services department saying openly, guys, we need a solution for this problem, because I don't believe that we have globally even so many completely different ideas how to do it. But if we work from ground up to sort of look at how the ideas can be co-developed with individual SBDs. And I must say that just this year, I got in touch with several individuals in the Republic of Ireland and here in the UK who are just looking for someone to talk to about the challenges that they face on a daily basis. And I'm just wondering, why is this not happening? What are your thoughts about how we can change that?
I think for me, it's a great point, Pavel, and obviously we've been discussing about the adoption of technology, but surely making the sterile services departments more innovative, bringing in new skills for new adoption of exciting technologies is also going to mean there's going to be more appeal for people wanting to take up careers in these areas, and this is a challenge that is clearly out there. So, I mean, we always say when we're trying to talk to people about the possibility of getting into medical devices with, maybe our company or other companies as an opportunity to take a step into medtech. Well, that's the same for sterile services, but sometimes that's not necessarily viewed in that same area. But once you're in there and you can then build your skills. So no, it's a good point. Culturally, it's a challenge, isn't it, to get that adoption and that and but yeah, what's the thoughts around Pavel's comments there, guys?
Well, Hank, in the UK, a lot of the sterile services managers are coming up to retirement age. So they have no interest in adopting any technology while they just, do their last few years of working. So we do have a lack of young blood coming up through our industry. Do you have similar problems in the States?
Yeah, I think across all of healthcare, we're seeing that huge generational kind of bell curve, but the majority of your leadership obviously is going to be those older generations. I will say the the ability to capture the mind, the buy-in, the passion of the younger ones coming up. I think a lot of what we're doing right now, right through new media, is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
That we're having conversations outside of the conference platform or an industry journal. And there's a lot of ways to have these conversations. It doesn't have to just be podcasts, but this is one example. Of course, social media is all over. TikTok, there's a ton of sterile processing content on TikTok. If you never look that up. But the other piece, and maybe this is back to what you're saying, Pavel, too, I'd say this is going to take a lot of different solutions, but one of the ones to think about if you're tuning in on the practical side is if you're one of those leaders that Matthew described as you just don't have it in you to convert, to operationalize this new tech in the next 2 to 3 years yourself, the most valuable thing that you could do as a leader today is interview and hire people into that frontline tech position who are comfortable process improving. You're not hiring the worker bees to come in and push the button, to be quiet, to do the job you've told them to do on the standard operating procedure. That's part of it. You do want people to follow instructions. You need that just for standardization piece, but you've got to identify through the interview process, through the recruiting process, even in your early training process, you've got to cultivate as early as possible people in your department who understand part of my job is to do my job, improve my job. Those are the two things. Do it, improve it. As a leader, as a supervisor, lead tech, or whatever, finding ways to continue fanning that flame in small ways in your department to improve the process in decontam, to improve the process sterilization, how we do our test, how we give data feedback. All those things can be done without a big investment from outside. But until we cultivate that mindset, because I don't think that is the common way we interview or the common way we train. We kind of leave the innovation to maybe the department educators or department managers and directors, and then we say, hey, the vendors out there, they can innovate and they'll fix the problems, and then we'll buy those innovations. But what Pavel and Matthew are saying both is the best solutions are coming from inside, because we're the ones that know the problem on the front lines. And if we don't cultivate that spirit of process improvement early on, it's going to be a long road to hoe. So yeah, I would say it's got an impact on how we hire, who we hire, and being intentional about identifying that early on, and incentivizing those high improvement performers, the ones that are constantly thinking outside the box and trying to fix it. Like, we need to incentivize those folks to keep doing that internal, and then using social media platforms like this one to have that conversation at scale so everyone else knows, oh man, did you see what they're doing on how they're now testing their washers? That's great, because now we're talking about it and you can get all of that momentum going from that.
This is an incredible insight. I'm so happy that we are recording this, because I'm just going to take this snippet and plaster it all over the internet.
Well,
Great.
yeah, we need to do something, because we haven't blasted anything since 2021. Matthew's had to have a spaceship takeoff, but no, I think I completely agree with that. And what I would say is, I think my experience more recently with the UK industry in decon is there are a lot of really motivated people who are really exciting to change things. They're doing their own things on education. They're trying to organise their own seminars and get out and see companies. So I think there's a really good time to mobilise the motivation that's out there across a lot of the industry. I'm sure there are people who maybe don't want to do that or are unable to do that, but I think it's a good time in the UK industry for my own recent discussions with lots of different people. Maybe those that are a younger stage in their career and those that are older, but the passion's still there, and that's the important thing. Look, we probably got about 5 minutes or so left, so I just thought it would be quite good to maybe finish up with a question that Pavel mentioned. Again, a good point, just around main focuses for 2026 and what they look like. So it'd be good to get the insight of the three of you on that point, please.
Okay, I'm happy to go first. I'm looking forward to 2026. After 32 years, I've moved on from a specific cleaning chemical I used to do, and I'm now focusing, with the help of Pavel and others, to move this technology forward. Not cleaning chemicals, but other projects I've got on the go. I'm going to take full advantage of what Hank mentioned about using social media. So you're going to see a lot more of me, sadly, for
Wonderful.
some. I'm working with some, as I said, with Pavel and some other innovation companies, and I'm looking forward to sharing it with the world over 2026.
No, wonderful, and I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely. Hank, how about you?
Yeah, the last couple of years, I've done a number of presentations around the impact of AI on our industry, and it's really twofold. In 2026, I'm looking forward to number one, our department leaders and technicians. If you don't know where to start for process improvement, go to AI. Tell it what problems you're having and opportunities you're having in your department. Just see what ideas it throws back at you. It's a wonderful conversation partner to help you get through that initial brainstorming. So tremendous, like, I would have killed to have the AI tools available to me now when I was a young manager that every single leader out there has access to today. Huge opportunities to look at your data, to just do all kinds of wonderful stuff. That's number one. Two, the challenge is because AI is pumping so much content out there into the space today, even into the social media space, it's become very difficult to even identify the kind of content that you can trust, the kind of content that is new, fresh, innovative ideas versus just AI spitting out the same stuff it's spitting out for everybody else. And so the challenge is going to be, how do you tell your story in a way that's still connecting humans to humans, even if you're utilizing AI to help you get through, some of the basic stuff. So yeah, it's exciting time. It's a really interesting time though for content consumption, and that's what I'll be watching here next year.
Fantastic
Fab stuff.
for us. 2026 is going to be all about spreading the word of what we do and how we best work and help the sterile processing world to be that one step ahead of everyone. We are starting relationships with new distributors, especially in Far East as well as in South America, and it's a welcome change for us because it's the case where we were approached by the companies who spotted something different in the way we do things, and they wanted to work with us. So we'll have our hands full getting more education, getting more products out there to the world. And also, we are going to get those new perspectives fed back to us. And I'm sure that this is going to sprout new innovations and improvements. So on a daily basis, I'm innovating even our current range of products. And this is giving me a huge satisfaction that even after a number of iterations, there is a little piece of feedback that comes back to you, and you can still improve the product to make it that tiny little bit either easier to use, more effective, more efficient. Just implementing innovation. So that's what my 2026 is going to be all about.
Great.
Fabulous. Well, it sounds like you guys are primed to drive into 2026. Oh, sorry, Matthew's flying into 2026 in the spaceship. I mean, the AI comment's interesting because it's something that I'm using probably more and more on a daily basis, not necessarily for social media stuff, because I think it's still, for me, it's fairly obvious when you're just chucking stuff over and obviously imagery like that, but that Christmas tree behind me with, and you can see that. Well, I think when people start worrying about their jobs being taken by AI, well, I've got some halves of instruments there and some that have fallen apart, and we're not quite there yet, but it's exciting. But for me, next year, very much focused on continue to develop our own education as as a business, working with new colleagues, my excellent team, an exciting team, and seeing and then seeing how we progress there. But yeah, it's all exciting stuff ahead. So I wish everybody a great Christmas and a great holiday break.
And we'll see you in 4 years.
Yeah. See you in 4 years. Blimey, I'll be extra old then.
maybe we'll try and make this an annual thing at least.
I mean, I thought it was. I lost track there.
Yeah, or relaunch Deconversations. I think we need to consider relaunching it. Now we've pulled off the sticking plaster. So
let's do it. Let's relaunch it.
And I'm looking forward to more stimulating conversations because I learn every single time we have one of our get-togethers. I learn from you guys, and I can make things better. It's as simple as that.
Definitely. Well, that's what we want. Great. Thanks, guys. Well, wish you all the best for 2026, and really enjoyed this mashup, shall we say? Fabulous.
Absolutely. And thank you. Have a blessed Christmas.
Have a great Christmas, and we'll definitely tie up in the new year for a new exciting episode. I'm sure, led by Matthew, who's volunteered to do that, which is great. So brilliant. Thanks,
Dan.
guys.
You do such a good job.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, everyone.
And thanks, guys, for the invite. We'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.